Bhuvneshwari Shabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpadrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatata Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vatsadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Come on, all of you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I can't hear you all. Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna Hare Hare.
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna. So, what
Hare
did we
Krishna
read in the
Mataji.
last chapter? What did we read? Do you recall what we read? So we read about Govardhan Hill, right? So we're going to continue that. So they all started praying Govardhan, listening to Krishna. So obviously you all saw the reaction, right? The reaction of Indra. We will see that right now. And that's what this chapter is about. Chapter 25, devastating rainfall in Vrindavan. And I also told you this is the time when Mirabai in her previous gen saw Krishna. So we can imagine what kind of look and what kind of feel and what kind of akashana, right? That attraction Krishna, as the name Krishna itself means all beautiful and so much of attraction. Nobody can control or resist looking at him. Unfortunately, we do not have that eyes. We are having material eyes. That is why occasionally even the very deity of Krishna, we are not able to take our eyes off, right? So, yeah, so I think the first person, Shravani, had hands up, right? Yeah, please go ahead, Shravani.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Devastating rainfall in Vrindavan. When Indra understood that the sacrifice which was to be offered by the cowherd men in Vrindavan had been stopped by Krishna, he became angry, and he vented his anger upon the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who were headed by Nand Maharaj. Although Indra knew perfectly well that Krishna was personally protecting them. As the director of different kinds of clouds, Indra called for the Samvartaka. This cloud is invited when there is a need to devastate the whole cosmic manifestation. The Samvartaka was ordered by Indra to go over Vrindavan and inundate the whole area with an extensive flood. Demonically, Indra thought himself to be all-powerful supreme personality. When demons become very powerful, they defy the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. Indra, though not a demon, was puffed up by his material position, and he wanted to challenge the supreme controller. He thought himself, at least for the time being, as powerful as Krishna. Indra said, "Just see the impudence of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. They are simply inhabitants of the forest, but being infatuated with their friend Krishna, who is nothing but an ordinary human being. They have dared to defy the demigods." Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, very beautiful. So the Indra called for what's called the Samvartika cloud. So does anyone know what is this this particular cloud and what is the kind of rain? See, normally when we have rain, we relish and we enjoy. So if there is a situation where they are not enjoying rain, can anyone explain as to what do you think this is the rain? It's already there. Why is
it's the kind of cloud burst.
Yeah, it's a kind of cloud. Which?
Cloud burst.
Yeah, cloud burst. But particularly, what does it denote? Yeah, you're right actually. But what does it denote?
Destroyer, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Sorry?
Like a destroyer.
Exactly. So this is more like the end of the yuga, right? So what happens is the night of Brahma, there will be the entire universe. There are 14 planetary systems. Leaving the top 3 planetary system, the entire planets gets filled in water. So there will be severe rain And that is very similar to this, right? So Samvartika rain is not like our regular rain, which we all love to relish and play around with. So it's absolutely devastating, and the whole manifestation will actually go under the cloud. So that is the biggest picture. So very importantly, we should be taking care of that. So we, Indra thought himself to be very powerful person, and what he thought is, so all these are personified, right? So the cloud is also like a person. So immediately the entire place gets extensively flooded. And when demons become powerful, they challenge Krishna. Now tell me, why is Indra a demon?
No, Mataji.
But then why is he behaving like that?
He's kind of jealous of Krishna.
So because even demigods, even people who are good, that's why there's a difference between a demigod, Sura, and a devotee of Krishna. A devotee of demigod is also a devotee of Krishna. I meant demigod and a pure devotee of Krishna. A pure devotee of Krishna always knows his stan, which means he knows that Krishna is there and we are here. In fact, he thinks lower, which is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, right? Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi saishnuna amanina madanina kirtaniya sadari. Subtler than grass, right? So that's the situation. So that's exactly the situation of a pure devotee. But here, these people get puffed up. Can you think of another demigod who got puffed up besides Indra? Who wanted to challenge Krishna?
Lord Brahma.
Hari Bol, very nice. So we just read about Brahma also got puffed up, right? So this is the nature of these demigods. Not that they are bad, but suddenly, when you have Ashta Aishwarya, we also forget. We think, oh, we get a promotion or we get a salary hike. We forget Krishna. We forget Krishna only gave. The factor of I comes in, right? Hey, I did it so well. Anything good, right? So even when, let's say, even for us, like when we take a nice class, we forget that Krishna is the guiding force. Suddenly we tell, hey, all students loved it. I really did it. It's not wrong to tell I, but the bottom line, we should know that the behind that I is Krishna, right? But most of the time we forget that. So that's the thing. Anybody else would like to read? Please have your hand raised. Yes, Ayushi. Yeah, Ayushi, go ahead. And if others would like to, after that, Neeta can read. And if anybody else would like to read, please have your hands raised. Yes, Ayushi. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ayushi.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, everybody. Krishna has declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshipper of the demigod are not very intelligent. He has also declared that one has to give up all kinds of demigod worship and simply concentrate on Krishna consciousness. Krishna invoking invoking the anger of Indra and later on chastising him is a clear indication to his devotees that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness have no need to worship any demigod. Even if it is found that the demigod has become angry, Krishna gives his devotee all protection and they should completely depend on his mercy. Should I read another para also, Mataji?
Yeah, you can read the other para also. So basically what they are telling is whoever is praying Krishna, it is sufficient. It's not required to worship demigods, right? Now the thing is, even if demigods become, normally the demigods do not become angry. They are very happy because they are also devotees of Krishna. But even in case they become angry, Krishna directly protects, right? So he need not really worry and they should totally depend on him. So that's the thing. Yeah, please, next para also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Indra cursed the action of the inhabitants of Vrindavana and said, by defying the authority of the demigod, the inhabitants of Vrindavana will suffer in material existence. Having neglected the sacrifice to the demigod, they cannot cross over the impediment of the ocean of material existence. Indra further declared, these coward men in Vrindavana have neglected my authority on the advice of this talkative boy who is known as Krishna. He is nothing but a child, and by believing this child, they have enraged me. Thus, he ordered the Vartaka cloud to go and destroy the propensity of Vrindavana. The men of Vrindavana, said Indra, have become too puffed up over their material opulence and are overconfident due to the presence of their tiny friend Krishna. He is simply talkative, childish, and unaware of the complete cosmic situation. Although he is thinking himself, although he is thinking himself very advanced in knowledge, because they have taken Krishna so seriously, they must be punished. They should be destroyed with their cows. In this way, Indra ordered the Samvartaka cloud to go to Vrindavana and inundate the place. Thank you, Mataji.
So he's so pissed off, right? So he is like telling Samarthika, it's like a personified, right? He says, hey, go and cause the thing. There's a small little boy. Does anyone know the age of Krishna when this particular thing is happening?
11 to 14 years.
7 years,
8 years.
No.
7 years.
year,
Yeah,
6
Mama
years,
is close.
Mataji.
No.
7 years.
Babu is right close.
4 years.
6.5 years. So 6.5. That's why he uses the word, this talkative boy, right? Known as Krishna. So he says that this tiny friend Krishna, right? So he's like really small. And he thinks that he is very knowledgeable and advanced, but because they have taken Krishna's words so seriously, he says that they should be punished and the entire cow should be destroyed. So, Indra is now taken to punishing them, right? He is so upset and he is now on that side. So that's the thing. Yeah, Neeta, please go ahead. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. It is indicated here that the village or outside the town, the inhabitants must depend on the cows for their prosperity. When the cows are destroyed, the people are destitute of all kinds of opulences. When King Indra ordered the Samvartaka and the companion clouds to go to Vrindavana, the clouds were afraid of doing this mischief. But King Indra assured them, you go ahead and I will also go. Riding on my elephant. Mataji,
Sorry.
riding on my elephant, accompanied by great storms, and I shall apply all my strength to punishing the inhabitants of Vrindavana. Ordered by King Indra, all the dangerous clouds appeared above Vrindavana and began to pour water incessantly. With all their strength and power, there was constant lightning and thunder, blowing of severe wind and incessant falling of the rain. The rain seemed to fall like piercing sharp arrows. By pouring water as thick as pillars without cessation, the clouds gradually filled all the lands in Vrindavana with water, and there was no visible distinction between the higher and the lower land. The situation was very dangerous, especially for the animals. The rainfall was accompanied by great winds, and every living creature in Vrindavana began to tremble about from the severe cold. Unable to find any other sources of deliverance, they all approached Govinda to take shelter at his lotus feet. The cows, especially, being much aggrieved from the heavy rain, bowed down and heads and taking their calves underneath their bodies, they approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of his lotus feet. At that time, all the inhabitants of Vrindavana began to pray to Lord Krishna. Dear Krishna, they prayed, oh, you are all powerful and you are very affectionate to your devotees. Now please protect us from who have been much harassed by angry Indra. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Ma. So basically what they are telling is all the clouds, right, appeared in Vrindavan and they started pouring water, and that is rain instantly with all power, lightning and thunder. So in fact, all of them have this particular thing. Even Greek mythology, which they call, or Greek literature, also has Lord Indra in there. Does anyone know the equivalent name which they give for Lord Indra? I don't know whether it's Greek mythology. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Greek. So does anyone know who it is? Very famous. If I ask the kids, they will tell Thor, right? So I think that's the Greek only, right? So so they have this particular, lightning. That is the king of lightning. He's called the Agna Purusha. Obviously, the original Agna is Krishna, but he is the demigod or head of demigods who is in charge of Swarga. So he collects everything in terms of whatever is coming into the holy fire, and then he distributes all of them to the rest of the demigods in terms of credits. So by pouring water on all this, right? So water, everything becomes devastated, right? So literally it's covered, and the situation is very dangerous for the animals, right? So they won't be able to fly or climb. So it's very cold, and it feels very uncomfortable in that kind of situation. So we've had floods in Chennai, and in a place like Chennai, where rain is much awaited. We felt very miserable when waters came inside, started feeling cold, very shiver, a lot of shivers. For a long time, the ground floor houses were all gone. The realty prices fell down. So it was a very serious issue actually. So we can imagine for a heavy rain, if it was like this was like a tonsure, right? I mean, this is like torrential rainfall. So the cows were so worried and they had nothing, and the calves, they had really pulled the calves and they decided to take shelter of Krishna. So they decided to pray to Krishna, right? Krishna, Krishna, you are powerful, you are so affectionate. Now you have to protect us, right? And Krishna, Indra as Harris. This is the point which we should note. They heard Krishna, and in terms of crisis, also they go back to Krishna. What do? We tell, hey Krishna, what did you do? You put me in such a situation. I am going through hell because of you only. Why did you do this to me? Why are you there? You know that your presence is not required, or whatever. We just we say that we are very close to Krishna, so we scold him. And we also tell that, everything went wrong. I went for this and it went wrong because before going, you don't take his permission. We are not bothered. We do as we want. And everything goes wrong, we are like, all the scoldings come to him, right? So that should not be our attitude. Next two paras, Lakshmi Mataji and Muralidharan Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yes, Lakshmi, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna everyone. Upon hearing their prayer, Krishna could understand that Indra, being bereft of his sacrificial honor, was pouring down rain that was accompanied by heavy pieces of ice and strong winds. Although all this was out of season, Krishna understood that this was a deliberate exhibition of anger by Indra. He therefore concluded, this demigod who thinks himself supreme has shown his great power, but I shall answer him according to my position, and I shall teach him.
Continue. Let me mute everybody. You can just unmute and leave.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, continue, dear. Hare Krishna. You have to unmute. I muted you also.
Oh, sorry, Mataji.
Sure.
And Hare Krishna. And I shall teach him that he is not autonomous in managing universal affairs. I am the Supreme Lord over all, and I shall thus take away his false prestige which has risen from his power. The demigods are my devotees, and therefore it is not possible for them to forget my supremacy. But somehow or other, he has become puffed up with material power, and this is now maddened. I shall act in such a way as to relieve him of his false prestige. I shall give protection to my pure devotees in Vrindavana, who are at present completely dependent on my mercy and whom I have taken completely under my protection. I must save them by my mystic power. Should I continue, Mataji?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. It was really very nice to hear. All of you all are initiating and raising your hands. So reading is not about English, whether we can read well or not. It is a process of purification because these are words of Krishna. So there are two processes always involved. One called Shravanam, another one called Kirtanam. Right? Shravanam is about hearing. And Kirtanam, most of the time we think it is singing. No. Kirtanam is anything. Reading, anything which you can hear is Kirtan. What I am teaching is Kirtan. What you are reading now is Kirtan. So anything which is about Krishna becomes Kirtan. Right? So people say that, oh, I am doing Kirtan. Kirtan, not singing. Kirtan is glories of Krishna, speaking about Krishna. Just saying Krishna is also Kirtan. So Japa is a process of both Shravan and Kirtan. So thank you so much for that. So obviously Krishna could not bear the trouble which the devotees are going through, and immediately says that, okay, I will put Indra in place. And not only Indra, I will put everybody, whoever is in place, wherever they get puffed up. Right? So many times, this is what happens. So this reminds me of like a small child, right? In the beach builds a house. And when the water comes, the house goes. So likewise, there is a conversation between Krishna and a person. Like a very puffed up guy. He says that, Krishna, I can also make a house. He says, make. So he makes a nice, beautiful house. He says, okay, see, this house is nice. I made on my own. He said, okay, but how do you say it's own? See, Krishna, I won't take your help. Okay, no problem. You make on your own. So he's making the house on his own. And he says, Krishna, give me some more sand. He says, why should I give you sand? That also you should make on your own. You should not borrow sand from it. right? It's a very ironical thing. So even the puffed up guys, when they are using the Panjabhutas, which are actually given by Krishna. So if they create sand, now you will tell, no Mataji, they created a chemical which looked like sand. But what are the ingredients of chemical? That will also be the Panjabhuta, right? The 5 basic gross elements. So that's the point. Yes, Muralidharan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thinking in this way, Lord Krishna immediately picked up Govardhana hill with one hand, exactly as a child picks up a mushroom from the ground. Thus he exhibited his transcendental pastimes of lifting Govardhana hill. Lord Krishna then addressed his devotees, my dear brothers, my dear father, my dear inhabitants of Vrindavana, you can now safely enter under the umbrella of Govardhana hill, which I have just lifted. Don't be afraid of the hill and think that it will fall from my hand. You have been too much afflicted from the heavy rain and strong wind. Therefore, I have lifted this hill, which will protect you exactly like a huge umbrella. I think this is a proper arrangement to relieve you of your immediate distress. Be happy along with your animals underneath this great umbrella. Being assured by Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Vrindavana entered beneath the great hill along with their property and animals, and they all appear to be safe.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. You can do the next paragraph. Meanwhile, so what happens is Krishna immediately picks up this Govardhana hill. Does anyone know which hand and which finger does he use to pick up the Govardhana hill?
Mataji.
Pinky finger.
Yes.
of the left hand.
Mataji.
Ah,
Mataji, I think Krishna has lifted it in his little finger.
yes, little finger and which hand?
In left hand.
Haribol, very nice, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yes, with this tiny little finger.
Left hand, Mataji.
Yeah, left hand and the little finger. So you can imagine, because the left hand is considered the weaker of both the hands, and the little finger is the weakest of all, right? So that's the position. So he just picks up. So if anybody wants to read, they can read. Otherwise, I'm going to ask Muralidhar Prabhu to do the last para.
Can I read?
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, this para. Please start. Prabhu, can you see? Can you start?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
The inhabitants of Vrindavana and their animals remained there for 1 week without being disturbed, hunger, thirst, or any other discomforts. They were simply astonished to see how Krishna was holding up the mountain with the little finger of his left hand. Seeing the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna, Indra, the king of heaven, was thunderstruck and baffled in his determination. He immediately called for all the clouds and asked them to desist. When the sky became completely cleared of all clouds and there was sunrise again, the strong wind stopped. At that time, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known now as the lifter of Govardhana hill, said, my dear cowherd men, now you can leave and take your wives, children's, cows, and valuables, because everything is ended. The inundation has gone down along with the swelling waters of the river.
Hare Krishna. So very clearly he is saying that, thank you so much for reading, Prabhu. We'll stop for the day with this. So Vrindavan, all the animals, they all stood for 1 week, right? Without hunger, thirst, because that's a speciality. The Krishna actually, in fact, you see, Krishna Kada is, we have not got the beauty, of course, beauty you can see in my DP, that feel of Krishna Kada, because actually, if you see even Parikshit, never felt hungry or thirsty for 7 days. This is not Bhagavad Sapta, but he did Bhagavatam genuinely in 7 days because that was his dedication, right? So he called for the clouds and asked them to just stop. And even and when he, so what happened is, again the sun rose, everything stopped, wind stopped, and Krishna, he immediately lifted and he said, my dear coward men, now you can leave and take your wives, children, cows, and valuables because everything is ended. So that's a power. In no time, he was able to end the particular rain, because the rain also got tired. So let me see how much is, oh, it's over. Okay, just one more para. If anybody who is not read wants to read the para, please go ahead. I'm just seeing. So he's finished that and he's requested everybody to, like, everything is over. You can go back home. If nobody else wants to read, I'm going to give this to Lakshmi Mata. So if anybody who is not read wants to read the last para. Yeah, Lakshmi, go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji. All the men loaded their valuables on carts and slowly left with their cows and other paraphernalia. After they had cleared out everything, Lord Krishna very slowly replaced Govardhana hill in exactly the same position it had been in before. When everything was done, all the inhabitants of Vrindavana approached Krishna with feelings of love and embraced him with great ecstasy. The gopis, being naturally very affectionate to Krishna, began to offer him yogurt mixed with their tears, and they poured incessant blessings upon him. Mother Yashoda, Mother Rohini, Nanda, and Balrama, who is the strongest of the strong, embraced Krishna one after another, and from spontaneous feeling of affection, blessed him over and over again. In the heavens, different demigods from different planetary systems, such as Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, and Charanaloka, also began to show their complete satisfaction. They poured showers of flowers on the surface of earth and sounded different conch shells. There was beating of drums and being inspired by godly feelings, residents of Gandharvaloka began to play on their tamburas to please the Lord. After this incident, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by his dear friends and the animals, returned to his home. As usual, the gopis began to chant the glorious pastimes of Lord Krishna with great feeling, for they were chanting from the heart. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of 25th chapter of Krishna, devastating rainfall in Vrindavana. Hare Krishna devotees.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, ma'am. So basically, Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, Charaloka, all are the higher planets, upper planetary systems. And everybody over there, Gandharvas are very known for very lovely music. So they're all very impressed with whatever happened because they know Krishna is the ultimate. And the mother, Yashoda, Rohini, because Rohini never showed any difference between Krishna and Balram. And Nand Baba treated both like his own children. And all of them were hugging. Now here you can see the Vatsalya Bhava of Balram. So Balram is somebody who serves Krishna in all 5 rasas. So here he is taking the role of Vatsalya where he is hugging his brother and that spontaneous love is shared. And gopis are giving him yogurt, which is obviously mixed with tears and all that. So complete love they have. And eventually everywhere, right, the showers of flowers are showing love. The way it's falling, it's like conch shells. The conch shells we can see, even in the war, and conch shells are supposed to be very sacred. Even in the temple, they blow the conch shell. So that is a speciality. So gopis began to chant the glories of Krishna. And it is very pleasing to the heart because it's a soul relationship. It's a very strong soul relationship. And that's the speciality. So with this, I'll end. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnavi Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for extremely wonderful class. Krishna Mataji.
I think tomorrow we'll have class mostly, and tomorrow, after tomorrow, 2 days will be break for Krishna Jayanti. Let's see what happens. Hare